Thinking Aloud. Conversations on the leading edge of knowledge and discovery with psychologist Jeffrey Mishlove.
Hello and welcome again. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove, back with George Leonard in our further explorations of awakening the energies of the body. Welcome again, George.
Thanks. It's good to be here again.
Let's talk now about the issue of dealing with surprises or sudden shocks, unexpected things, and the body's reaction to them.
Yeah, what do you do about that? I'll bet you nowhere in your schooling, throughout all of your 12 or 16 or 25 years of schooling, I'll bet you never had any lessons on how do you deal with a sudden shock. We call it a sudden hit.
Yeah.
Let me give some examples. Say you have an heirloom watch, a gold watch that you inherited from your grandfather. You fully intend to give it to your grandson. And one day you're out on the end of a pier and you're looking at it and showing it to a friend and you drop it into the water, into the bottom of the sea. How do you handle it? How do you deal with it? Well, let's take another example. Say you're leaving the show, you have an important appointment somewhere, down the coast. Right. You get right on the coast road, way out where there are not any service stations. Bingo, you have a flat tire. How do you deal with that? Or we could get, Jeffrey, to some very serious matters. Say that, you come home and your mate says, I haven't been able to tell you this, but I have to tell you that for the last 6 months I've been having an affair with your best friend. How do you deal with it? And so, again, what we are doing, just to remind everyone, we are using the body as a metaphor, as a kind of a litmus paper. How do we deal with things? How can we find better ways of dealing with things? And so what I'd like to start out with tonight is to show how we would deal with a sudden shock and how our culture, just in normal ways, without instruction, without any guidance from our elders, how have we sort of evolved into dealing with these sudden shocks? And I don't think these are very good ways to do it. So how we were going to do this is, either you or I will be holding our arm out. In this case, you'll shut your eyes. And first I have to ask you, are you a very jumpy person? On a scale of, I'm going to grab your wrist like this. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want? Do you want me to really give you a clobber you?
Give me a real good one. I mean,
about a 9 then.
Yeah, I've been known to jump out of my skin, but generally I don't.
All right, if you ask for a 9, I'm going to give you an 8 then. Because it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
And all I want is just to make you jump a little bit.
Okay. And
that'll be the idea. So, all right, and I don't want to jerk your arm around and push you back. It's just a neutral hit. It looks like this. You can leave your eyes open and look at it. Oh! That's a jump. And that you jumped a little bit even there with your eyes open.
Yeah.
So that should probably be enough. So I'm going to have you do that with me. I'll take my watch off. I'll have you do that with me 3 different ways. And I'll show you, these are not the ways that we're going to recommend. But I'm going to show you the ways that our culture, people in our culture, normally react to sudden shocks. And you can just see, do any of these possibly apply to you? Okay, and I want you to grab me and then hold on real tight with both hands.
With both hands.
Don't let go.
One from each side.
And since I've done this a lot, I have a fairly labile nervous system, but I've gotten accustomed to it. So since I've done it a number of times, you can give me a 9 or 10.
All right.
So I'll shut my eyes and don't tell me when you're going to do it. Just wait a moment. And then I'm going to react, and you, Jeffrey, continue to hang in there.
All right.
Okay? All right, I shut my eyes. I hold it out.
Okay.
I start fighting against it. I start fighting. What happened? What happened?
When you fought, it was easy for me to hang on.
You got stronger.
Yeah.
In other words, if you immediately, without thinking, and this is universal with all of our groups, if you start fighting back against a sudden shock, damn, this thing happened, I'm going to do something about it right now, and don't center, don't stop to do anything about it, the problem gets worse, just like it did there. All right, let me give you another one. This is kind of a funny one. You give me another 9 or 10.
Okay.
Oh no, not again, God, not again, why me, not again. In other words, the victim, the victim person.
Right.
Okay, but what if you're a sadist? Well, actually, if you play the victim, you get to be a victim, you draw in more and more sudden hits, more attacks, and so forth.
Yeah.
But let me give you a third way, and this is rather significant, especially for us men in our culture, in this here culture. Okay. I don't feel a thing. I don't feel anything. Nothing's happening to me. I don't feel a thing. Does that seem familiar?
Denial.
Yeah, denial.
Yeah.
And that perhaps is the most insidious one of all. I don't feel anything. How many of us men have been taught we can handle everything? We're not supposed to show emotions. We're not supposed to show feelings. And listen, if I don't feel anything, you see, the thing is that when you hit me, say, what you're doing is symbolizing this sudden hit in life. When you lose the watch or when
There was a
something bad
split
happens to you.
second there when I was tempted just to let go of you when you said you didn't feel anything, like there was no impetus to
Right.
hang on, but it didn't last long. And
Right. But the problem with this kind of denial is that actually when you hit me, energy has come into my system. I can choose whether to use that energy and how to use that energy, for good or for ill. In other words, when you hit me like that and I jumped, a little hormonal cocktail was shot out into my blood by the adrenal glands.
That's right.
Now, I can either choose to use that, and there's some research to show that this norepinephrine, when it goes into the coronary arteries, and if you just freeze it, it could do some damage there. In other words, you could use it for something good, to use it in an appropriate way, or you could say it's not there, but it really is there. You are denying not only your feelings, but the gift of energy, the possibility of taking the hit as a gift. Now, the idea of what we really want to do is take the hit as a gift. So now I'm going to show you a way that we like to demonstrate to our workshop people. And with this way, it's just possible that not only would I be able to handle the problem, but gain additional energy by which I could even handle additional problems, maybe even take charge of my life and deal with other things that are not even connected with this one hit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to center myself as we did in the first segment. I'm going to get my energy in the center, feel my feet on the floor, relax the shoulders, feel the back, the small of my back on the chair, feel all the embrace of gravity, watch my breathing, soften my eyes, and so forth. Then I'm going to close my eyes, and when I'm ready for you to give the hit, I'm going to raise my arm, and you give it with the same amount of force, with a little shout, really try to make me jump, and I'll show you an alternative way of dealing with a sudden hit. Ha! Okay, I open my eyes. Now I'll start describing exactly what I'm feeling. Okay, it was really quite a shock. The left side of my face seemed to tighten up. Continue to hang in there. All right. Left side of my face tightened up. I feel pressure in my left shoulder. I felt a little jump. My left shoulder raised. In other words, I'm describing all this. I'm not looking at you. I'm not pointing at where it is. I feel a little tension in the solar plexus. Now I'm letting that go. Now I'm going to continue to hang in there. I know it's hard to hang in there.
Right.
Now I begin breathing into my center. I take this energy, which is entering this arm, and I let it spread through my whole body. I let it infuse my whole being. I let it create an envelope of energy around me, an aura which begins to expand. It's very hard for you to hold on now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ah, so I'm beginning to feel a kind of a wonderful tingle through my whole body. I have additional energy. I don't think you could very well hold on.
It's more like a dance or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see what I've done now. I acknowledged, first I experienced fully. Now that's important, to experience fully in bodily terms, not in theoretical terms, but where in the body the tension is, or where any special energy is in the body. Maybe there's more energy on this side than on this side. If so, I will first experience it, then I will acknowledge it by speaking it aloud to you. Not looking in your eyes and say, oh, Jeffrey, you see right here? You know, that's kind of giving away my power. Now look out this way, not towards you, with soft eyes, and I acknowledge by speaking it. So now we're going to do it with you.
Okay.
And anybody in the audience who'd like to do it, they can also do the same exercise.
All right.
So balance yourself and center yourself. You might touch your center. And you still want about a 8 or 9, right? Okay. You asked for it.
All right, a 6.
All right, and feel your back on the small of your back on the chair, your buttocks sitting, the firmness in the bottom of your thighs, your feet firmly on the floor. Relaxing your shoulders, let your shoulders melt downward.
I'm getting in touch with these incredible feelings we had last time.
Right, the energy. Sometimes just simply by being balanced and centered and letting the energy flow down through you, you have almost a change of context where what once felt tension, you begin to feel relaxation. So you'll get totally relaxed, and then when you really feel centered, let your arm rise, and I will give you the sudden hit, the gift of energy.
Somehow I lost it there.
Come on, get back down with
okay.
eyes closed. Okay. Move it over slightly. Go! Open your eyes and look straight ahead,
yeah.
soft eyes, and just begin describing precisely what you're feeling. What you felt at this moment of impact.
It's like a wave of energy that began up my arm, moved into this whole side of my body was tense for a while. And now it does seem to be, oh, there's a little more coming in. Several waves of energy.
Let them flow through your whole body.
It's like the ocean, sort of, really.
Do you feel more tension in the right side than the left, where I'm holding you?
Yes,
Okay, let it spread through your whole body.
Yeah.
That's right. Open your fingers. Open the fingers of your right hand.
Yes.
Expand. Let the fingers open wide. Breathe deeply. All the way down the abdomen. Take big, huge breaths. Let that energy spread through your whole body. Good. And move around.
It's sort of like swimming in the ocean now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you've had enough, just tap my hand and I'll let you go.
Okay, well, I'm enjoying this. It's a gift of energy, really.
Right, right.
Yeah. Keep it coming.
All right.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah.
Okay, now just open your arms like this. Embrace the world.
Oh.
And what do you feel?
Right. I feel a sense of fullness, a sense of wholeness, a sense of aliveness. It's like that energy from you was not a threat. At first I was threatened and frightened. Now it feels like a gift.
In other words, what you felt, what you've experienced now is that this sudden blow, which could have been taken as something very negative, was transformed into something else. You change the context. You change the way in which you weave that experience together. Context means, as we said last time, to weave together.
Of course, you helped me relax through it a little more.
I'm giving you advice, but that's the way you deal. Now, the point is that as we do that physically with your body, this is simply a metaphor. Nobody is going to be there to hit you like this. And do it. But probably sometime between now and next month, could be a little thing, but we all have sudden hits. Unexpected things happen. And you really can use this exercise. In other words, nobody's grabbing your arm, but when it happens, you can start breathing. Say, wait a minute, that really is a blow. I'm not denying it. I'm not fighting back. I'm first experiencing it. And to experience it through your body is a first step in dealing with it. Once you experience it through your body, you don't have to acknowledge it to somebody else. If somebody else is there who's a sympathetic soul, please do so. But you can still do this by acknowledging it to yourself. This really did hurt. This was a deep blow. This was a serious professional blow. Something terrible happened, say, even on this show. One of the cameras broke. Say that happened in the
has happened, yes.
In the middle of a show. You know, you're not going to, maybe you would acknowledge it to the audience. That would be an interesting way of handling it. But at least acknowledge it to yourself. Experience. Your breath is a little shorter. And that sudden blow did send extra adrenaline into your bloodstream. It's up to you. You can choose how to use it.
The key seems to be relaxing into it.
Right, go toward it
Yeah.
and acknowledge it. And then realize that any kind of blow can be, it is energy. If you'll acknowledge it as this kind of key energy, then it can be transformed into any number of things, into further good works, be acknowledged into, anger can turn to the indignation out of which comes a great work. Many great works of writing. Jonathan Swift wrote some of his greatest works out of his anger by transforming it into something creative, rather than simply sitting on it. And that's a denial, just to sit on your anger and just everything happens to me, that kind of thing. So this, it turns out, is one of our most useful exercises. And we've done a number of surveys with people who've taken our workshops. And balancing and centering is the most useful, according to most people. But close on the heels of that is this exercise. And almost every workshop in which we've given this exercise, within a week or so, somebody has written to us and told us how they actually used it in their life.
It seems as if this is, in some sense, a metaphor for the whole philosophy of nonviolent resistance.
It certainly is one of them, yes. Another, of course, is blending, which we talked about last time, that is coming around and looking at the problem from the attacker's viewpoint. But this is not necessarily an attacker. This is just something that might happen to you. You might have a fender bender, an accident. How can you transform that into something good? Well, you can. And you know, how many great men or great women have, in their lives, had their life transformed for the good by some terrible mishap, like President Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was a vapid young Groton Harvard boy, rich, spoiled, no good, and he had an attack of polio. And courageously out of that came a new man, compassionate for the rest of the world, with tremendous energy to do good, and became one of our very greatest presidents.
And I would imagine, George, that when you feel prepared, that you've had these opportunities to rehearse handling sudden surprise, handling shock in your life, you're a little bit more willing to take risks.
Exactly. You're willing to take risks because things can be transformed, even the things we call negative. And especially if they're sudden and come in at you like that, they are energy entering your system. I just have to keep repeating that because it's such a useful concept, and it can be transformed into something good. Not that we want to go out seeking sudden hits, but they will inevitably come, and then they can be transformed. And in the earlier segment, we did transformation of pain to positive energy. And that's one of the basic principles of our work. And it really requires the concept of key energy, that almost anything can be converted into energy. Then that energy can be converted. It's a medium of conversion into all sorts of good works, or good things, or fun times in your life. So that's one of our most important exercises.
Well, I don't think anybody is going to live their life without experiencing sudden shock.
That's right. And of course, another thing we like to say is that denial is one of the very worst ways of handling it of all. Because if you deny it, you will never get rid of it. It will still be there forever and ever.
Of course, you know, you gave me a, I don't know, a 6, a 7, an 8. What if the shock were really excruciating? Could it be handled the same way?
Well, yes, it will be handled. It could be handled the same way. Now, of course, in workshop situations right here, we don't want to do anything terrible.
Yeah.
There was one person at one of our workshops that said, well, this exercise is not really all that serious, because what if a Bengal tiger appeared in this room? I said, I'm really sorry, I can't provide you with a Bengal tiger, but I can provide you with a sudden hit like this. And this, again, is metaphorical. It's simply symbolic of a deeper hit.
But in your Aikido training, there are broken bones occasionally.
Definitely. And we definitely use that exercise again and again and again. In other words, I've used that in my own life on numerous occasions. On one occasion where a really terrible professional blow came to me, the worst of my career. And it just so happened that I got that phone call as I was leaving for Esalen to give a workshop in which I knew I'd be giving this exercise. And Jeffrey, you've often heard the statement that teachers often need teachers. Sometimes the teachers don't do their own work. I might have failed to do it, except I was headed for Esalen. And so it took me 4 hours in my car as I drove down to process this event. And what I did was use the exercise, my own exercise. And by the time I got there, I was so filled with energy that I went to the telephone and not only dealt with this one problem, but changed my entire life. And it's just not time, it wouldn't be appropriate to go through all the details of it. But literally, Jeffrey, I had the energy to change my entire life. I was kind of stuck on the dime, as they said there. I was stuck at that moment.
Well, I hear you
and
coming.
that gave me the extra energy.
Really from the heart with this. You're not.
That's right. It's real. This exercise is very, very real. And although we're just grabbing the arm now, I hope that everybody can understand, and hope you understand, that this symbolizes any kind of hit. We wouldn't want to do anything more devastating than this in a workshop situation or here on television. I don't want to hit you or anything.
Surprise, George.
Right. Of course, some of the people we get that feel that they don't feel it at all, we can always find ways to get around that and find a shock a little further, a little beyond that one, but we won't do that here.
Well, we all, I suppose, have, you know, certain thickness of skin, a certain way of just warding off the world. And the idea of this process, I gather, is to get underneath that.
Exactly. And by doing the process repeatedly, you're not quite so vulnerable to sudden shocks, and yet you still can use them. There is nobody against whom some shock won't have a tremendous effect. Even the most armored person can be shocked. And again, we see that there's a possibility of, rather than denying, of acknowledging, and you can get much more out of it.
And perhaps dropping some of our armor.
Absolutely. You can go around with a lot more confidence with this exercise.
That was a great process.
Thank you. And if you'd like to, we could do one more.
Great.
Now, this is one of the exercises in the appendix of the Silent Pulse. We have a number of what we call advanced exercises. These get into realms which are a little beyond the normal.
Transpersonal.
Transpersonal. Thank you for that word. I like that.
That makes it sound scientific, right?
Good. Thank you. Okay. So if you would now close your eyes. And I'd like to ask you, Jeffrey, to think of some situation that you, in your life, something current, something that's tied up with your ego right now, something that you would like to have changed or change. Now, we often call these situations problems. So in other words, think of some problem that you'd like to have changed. And do you have one now?
Yeah.
Well, that was pretty quick. Good. Okay. Please open your eyes. Right here in front of you, please create an energy ball. Now, this is a ball which would be made of, we could call it imaginary substance, or if you wish to, you could say that it has a certain element of reality in it. This is key energy. And you can generally tell that you've got it when you feel the boundary of it. As your hands move it, you'll feel a certain boundary at a certain point, very subtly.
And now, am I visualizing it or feeling it?
Feel and visualize.
Okay.
Some people would rather do it kinesthetically, others visualize.
Well, it's easier to visualize with my eyes closed.
Good. Okay, great. You're doing it kinesthetically then. Great. Okay. But now I'm going to ask you to open your eyes now that you feel the boundary.
Yeah.
Okay. Take your problem and put it in the ball.
Okay.
All right. Now it's in the ball. Now, I want to remind you that it's no longer within you. You have it enclosed in this membrane outside of you.
The ball feels a lot more real now.
Okay, good. Okay, if this problem had a color, what would the color be? Just to try to specify a little bit. You don't have to say it aloud. In fact, I'd rather you not. All right, if it had a geometric shape, what would that shape be? How about its texture? What would its texture be if it had a texture? Good. And which way is it facing? Let's just be as specific as possible. Give it reality. Okay, now that problem is in the ball and you've given it all sorts of specifics so you know it's really there. Now I want to remind you that this problem is tied up with a lot of your ego. And if you got rid of that problem for a while, you'd have to let go of some of your ego too.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you something. Jeffrey, would you be willing for the next 7 to 8 minutes to live without this problem?
Yes.
Okay, good. In that case, I'm going to give you, now if you would say no, I'd say just put it back in you. But since you said yes, I'll just say we're going to have a way of just pushing it down into the earth and pounding it down into the earth, and it's going to be banked there, like a bank. And I'm going to assure you can get it back because I know how important our problems are too. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, bank it down here. Just pound it down. Okay, good. Take a breath. Now it's outside of you. You don't have that problem anymore. Okay, make another ball.
Okay.
This one is a crystalline ball. And by your intentionality, you've created a crystalline ball. And a crystal, as you might know, in that form, all the molecules are lined up the same, so it's generally transparent. A crystal has another interesting characteristic. It vibrates only to a single frequency. That's why we use it in transmitters and television. Okay, let's just, by your intentionality, let's specify that the frequency, the vibratory frequency of this crystalline ball is precisely that of your inner pulse.
Okay.
Your inner pulse. It's what really gives you your essential characteristics. So this really is very essential to you. Now let me just tell you a couple of other characteristics of the crystalline state, as we call it. The crystalline state has no prejudgment. It's not judgmental. Crystalline state has no expectations. It exists in the present moment with knowledge of the past and some of the future, but it exists in the present moment. So if you're going to be willing to be in the crystalline state, you have to be willing to give up judgments. You can't judge other people, and of course that means mainly not being judgmental against yourself. because that's where it all comes from. Have no expectations at all. So for this next few minutes, you're going to live without judgments and without expectations and in the present moment. Be almost like a 6-month-old baby. You can see them look at the world. They're not judging. They're just there. Okay, would you be willing to live in that state for the next few minutes?
Yeah.
If so, would you put it in your body without touching yourself? Just feel it going into your body. Feel its energy and feel it spreading downward and upward and pervading your whole body. Your whole body is filled with a crystalline state. Okay. Now just sit there. Now open your eyes and look around the world without judgment. All surrounding, all the nice people here who are taking these pictures, the studio, and you and me and yourself. What would it be like if you didn't have to make any judgment
Great to be here.
and just live in the present moment? That's that. And if we get around and walk around, get up and walk around, we would just go and look at things and even look at nature, look at a flower as if for the first time, the way a child sees it. Because what would it be like to live in that state? So in other words, to be in this crystalline state is to be very much in the moment. And this is one of the inductions we use. Making a crystal ball, putting it within us, literally feel, I hope you felt something.
I sort of feel like on the edge of hilarity.
Good, good. All right.
I mean, I could spend the rest of the program giggling with you.
Good, that would be a wonderful way to spend the rest of the program. Okay, well that is the basic crystalline state exercise. And in the silent pulse, of course, we use that crystalline state to take us a lot of other places as well. It's one of the real states of being that you can, a lot of people say if you're in the present moment, you're not going to be effective in the world. You've always got to be scheming. But strangely enough, you can be very effective in the present moment.
It's like your real energy is there.
Got a lot of energy when you're in the present moment. And, what would it be like if we didn't have to be judgmental? Just for half a day, wouldn't that be something?
And I think letting go of the problem was part of it there.
Yeah,
to
right.
just allow me to be myself. Well, George, we're out of time.
Forget the program, everything. Let's just live it.
This has been wonderful, George.
Great.
Thanks so much for being with me.
It was really fun.
And thanks again for being with us.